And when we do come up with advisories or things like that, who is supposed to be getting that info, and what feedback do we get that they are acting upon it in a way that is helpful to us and helpful to the library in general. And so our group felt that there should be a more definitive purpose, allowing the library advisory boards to have more decision-making power. And one impact that has a detrimental effect on the purpose of the labs is the meeting schedules. Some groups meet quarterly, some meet bi-monthly, some meet monthly. There's no consistency in that, and if you're meeting quarterly, that has got to have some direct impact upon your purpose and how you're going to effectuate that. Then, okay, I'll stop there.
One issue that came up in our discussion was the bylaws of the labs, and they seem to be different for different labs, and is that what we want?
One thing that I've wondered is, each year the library has system-wide goals that it crafts when it puts together its budget. Do the managers bring the system-wide goals to the labs to help, to help implement those? Because I know that you all think about, local projects and activities, but do you all go through the system-wide goals as well and talk through those?
It's always a top-down conversation. We're told what they are. That doesn't mean that we're just participating.
Because I would love to get the labs more involved. If we know there's things we have to do anyway, to get the labs helping achieve some of the things that we know we have to do, in addition to generating new ideas. It's something I wonder about.
I've had a revival of participation of the labs in crafting the KPA, in crafting the new JPA, and involvement with the cities and everything. But prior to that, I chair our local LAP, and it's a feat to even get them to read the minutes from the prior month meeting. They show up, but there's not.
Well, it seems to me, I'll just talk since Rebecca turned her back, the new strategic plan has a great opportunity to tie all this together and to get everybody on the same page and say these are the goals of the library, this is the lab's part of that, and carrying it forth. And I mean, it's a great opportunity to, because I feel like all the time in the lab is kind of like, why are we here? This is fun and it's fun to talk, but where's this information going? And how is it engaging the community? And who knows what we're here? And that kind of thing. But I think that a structure where it's just much more clarity is going to come out of the strategic plan, I'm sure.
Maybe when you put together the system-wide goals, here's a proposal to that to the lab, and let the lab say, okay, here's what we think, here's what our top priority will be for us, and then that's just his input to you. It's not saying here's what you have to change into, but at least it's input.
So I have a question for the labs, because Tim, was it a year ago that you started that place on the agenda for labs to come?
Yeah.
So it's about a year ago that the commission has been really trying to reach out to labs and trying to make the communication better and make sure that things are brought back and do the lab notes so that if people don't get a chance to watch us, I think, on the video or to read the minutes, if they have at least a synopsis of things that we think are the highlights in the meeting, and then we have this place on the agenda that labs can come and make a presentation to tell us what they're working on or what their ideas are, or but maybe that's it's inconvenient for people to come to the meeting on East Santa Rosa. Maybe there's another form of communication that would work better. I mean, and I know it's difficult for people sometimes to get up in front of a group of people, especially in that kind of gladiator setting. So I just, because I think we really want to hear what you think about things. We try to, make more of a effort to make sure that we're bringing things to our labs and asking their opinions on things, but, it doesn't sound like it seems that effective to all of you. So just tell us what you would work better, or how we can make it easier for you to communicate with the tools that we have right now, or just how to, what would be better. I want to answer right now.
I think it's one more expectations, and I think that it's maybe a little more, some more orders from, mothership. This is what we want you to do, and we want you to, report back. I mean, to kind of expect some sort of free-floating, body, like, you're getting people to have your meeting. They're not going to come to the commission and tell you, we talked about blah, blah, blah. I mean, there needs to be some goals and some expectations, I think, in the lab. Tighter, it's too loose, it's too, random, it's too independent. It's just, there isn't any connection, a serious connection. I think these are really good tools. I think the commission, the notes are really a good idea. I love reading them. It doesn't tell me what I'm supposed to do as a lab member and how this is going to play out. That's always a problem with an advisory board. Just advisory. Well, who are you advising? Who's listening to you? Who's listening to your advice? And what you should be, advising them. So it needs more clarity in terms of, again, I think I have a lot of hope in the strategic plan.
I also think two things. One of them is that the commissioners are crucial in this, and hopefully one of the new things is that there's a commissioner for every lab now. It's not one commissioner following 3 labs that meet monthly, or like I only have one that meets quarterly. So now there can be that relationship. And it may be that from the commission perspective, in the lab notes, not only do we need to report, but we can also ask.
Yes.
And say, what would we like, at the end of the meeting, we usually sum up what do we want to share. But we can also ask, what do we would like the labs to discuss, or what kind of feedback do we need from the lab notes. So that's one thing that I see that the commission could do.
I worked at a library once that had, a bunch of advisory groups, and one thing that they did is the presidents of each group got together quarterly, and they called it President's Council. But they found that really helpful, that it kind of inspired each other, and that they were aware then of what they were all working on, and then they did some things collectively. But it might be something to consider here if the friends getting together, or the presidents getting together, on occasion throughout the year would be helpful.
Friends or labs or both?
What's that?
Friends or labs or both?
I was thinking of the labs, but the friends as well, if it's helpful.
And then my question would be, if it's a friends presidents, then it would need to be agendized and run.
Not the friends, but the
Labs.
labs.
Yeah. Be the chairs of the lab.
I think
I know that.
for the same reason that this is a good idea to do once a year. As far as I know, it's the only thing that happens like this. And the friends never get together.
Yes, they do.
They have fun.
once.
Well, once, I know. But when was that?
We've done, it started out in the Sonoma Valley about 10 years ago. Right, John?
Yeah, it isn't sort of.
And it started as Friends Forum.
Yeah, we had the first one.
And we've had about 4 of them.
Right, so it's not a regular every year,
We
every
kind
quarter.
of wanted it to be, but you've got to get a lot of people together.
We kind of wanted it to rotate through the different libraries, and some of them just didn't step up to the plate.
So have we covered this purpose of a lab sufficiently? Do we want to move on to another topic, or?
Budget.
And, yeah, let's maybe pick 1 or 2 more, and then, so we don't use up all our time, move into actions or how to improve these things. So, we want to talk about budget?
Yeah.
How about money?
We opened up, or we followed up on budgets. That was the other one that we spent a great time on, because it's new to all of us. all of us here, I think. The fact of having $500 a year and what are the procedures, and it's a welcome problem, but it is something that we have to learn about. And so we were exchanging information on it amongst ourselves about, you know, whether you this use it or lose it type of thing, and the procedures to follow to actually get money in your hand for something. You know, it's fine to say we're going to have another open house and our group has allocated $100 to it, but where's the $100 and how do we go about getting it and funding that group? At Guerneville, we actually set up a committee on it. Others had the whole lab voting on particular items on that budget. But everybody's dealt with the problem a little bit. Anyway, that's what we spent time talking about, just exchanging information about that. It's all new.
And it doesn't roll over if you don't.
And it doesn't roll over. Use it or
Could it be donated at the end of the year? If you don't use it, could you donate it to your friends?
No.
I must be kind of working backwards. I mean, no, it's just because it goes back to the library, and it stays with the library.
Yeah.
Public money. So it's for a specific purpose. At least right now, the commission designed it for a specific purpose, and that's to enable the labs to do outreach a little better, so that they would have some money to do that.
We had a discussion about that, and it seemed like Cloverdale with 8,000 people gets the same amount of money as Santa Rosa does.
Yeah.
So then the cost to Santa Rosa to do outreach is going to be higher, just an observation.
I don't think we got to the point that you can't use it on selling Measure M.
No.
So is it more a problem of how to use it, or how to read on what to use it for, or?
We talked about all of that, but as I say, we're in a learning curve, all of us, I think, on this.
I like what Cloverdale has done. They've used some of the money for,
The Cloverdale Lab, I think it costs $10 for the table at our Friday Night Live street fair functions. And then the lab gave the friends $75, and then the lab made certificates to give for a drawing for people who stopped by at the table. So, and the lab bought really nice science type prizes for the summer reading program. And did that use up the money? I don't think we got whether we could use all this also.
We also discussed what the procedure is for actually getting the money in your hands. And none of us were 100% clear on that, other than it was complicated.
Does it feel unnecessarily complicated?
Yes.
Okay, that's good to know. That's
I was going to say that we discussed, it seems to me that it is pretty common amongst the labs to ask if they need any money or to fund a particular thing they want to do. They usually make a request to the friends, and then the friends agree to fund specific things. Since there is a friends representative on the labs, usually president at every meeting. But it's a cumbersome process because, on my lab, I'm the president of the River Friends, and they make a request to me, and I have to go back and get approval. So there's too many steps, to get that done, and so to raise funds and to get access to them. So, and I think some things can die on the vine, by the time you get any money coming through, because they don't have separate independent budgets that they can draw from.
Are you talking about the friends?
No, the lab doesn't have a separate independent budget that they can draw on initially for anything they want to do at that time. If they need any money at all, they have to tell the president or the representative that's sitting on the board, and that person has to go back to their executive board.
Well, you're you're talking about asking the friends.
Yeah, asking the friends for money.
But I think we're talking
But-
specifically right now about the $500 that each lab.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
That's
Okay.
okay.
Okay, I hear you, okay.
This is a good example. Hearing this, though, the commission needs to have a discussion about this, because it is to some degree, a pilot process, a pilot year, and we need to review how it's working. And this is a classic example of how we need the input from the labs. And so, it's just happened. And so, right here, we know that this will be on an agenda, and so that this is, if we can get feedback from the labs about the problems and the pluses, then we can review the whole process.
Right, it would also be good to hear, get just a little synopsis of how you've used your money this first
A
year.
report, yeah.
Using the $500.
Right.
When Sebastopol used theirs, when we bought like the easel. So I went down to the local art supply. I bought the easel with my money. I turned the receipts into the director, or the branch manager, and he sent it in, and I had checked before my credit card bill. Okay, so it was very,
Right.
I was very comfortable,
And
doing
it's
that,
a
and it's quick.
Discussion at the lab on what you want
Yes,
to do.
we
with your credit
approved,
card.
we approved it, we did it,
Right.
we got paid.
Yeah, we did some.
And it wasn't that difficult, so.
Is there anything else that anyone wants to bring up on this list really quickly? This big master list?
Recruiting.
Recruiting, okay.
We came up with the comment that since right now, our meetings move to 4 o'clock to accommodate the previous commissioner, or previous before that commissioner, and that probably precludes getting some people as members, or if they're working, or kids in school, or didn't do that. So just as a comment, if we were, a lot of us seem to be having problems getting members. That's one thing to look at. When do you meet and when are people able?
Anybody try morning meetings? Just curious.
You mean like 7 o'clock morning?
6 o'clock.
I'm sorry, is there 7 o'clock in the morning? That's 8 a.m. That would not
Meetings are very
They think you're with attention.
So I'm curious, is anyone doing active recruiting? It sounded like, who said they had gone to the high school?
Gurnville has done that.
Okay. So Gurnville went to the high school and recruited
Yes,
them?
and we've been recruiting, youth members. El Molino High School is mainly where we've drawn from, isn't that right, Peter? And so that's a big one for us, and it's worked out very, very well so far.
Also, Paul Simmons went to
Yeah.
Healdsburg High School.
Right. We have one left, and we're looking for another.
I'm sorry,
I'm just curious, when you've gone to the high schools, who do you talk to there? Do you talk to guidance counselor or principal, or do you talk, or do you present to a class, or what?
Well, I think, and Peter, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think what happened with us is that we had a youth member who came to, who worked on one of our book sales.
Okay.
And we asked her to reach out to some of the students at the high school. And so we kind of got one person that was on their level and asked them to go back, and they did get back to us.
Well, and her mother worked for Central Library too.
Oh.
Yeah, that's right.
That's how we got her.
Barbara, did you have something?
Yeah, I think they were talking about going to high schools and recruiting youth members. We've gone to the high schools and recruited teachers, teacher people. And so it looked like we have two to do that. And the route we used was our branch manager emailed the superintendent schools, and I think kept bugging them until he assigned the assistant superintendent schools to work with us. But I think the teachers are going to be huge help.
When I visited this basketball lab a couple of years ago, and they were having trouble, and it just so happened that the president of the student body at El Molino, I think it's El Molino, was trying to use the big building on a Sunday or something. So I had his name. So I called him and said, do you know anybody on the student council? And that's how they got their lab person. But the other thing is many of the high schools require public, community service.
Yes.
And that's another path for getting.
Senior projects.
No, they have to give a certain number of hours of community service.
20 hours a term.
Yeah,
We have senior year.
So that's one lab meeting.
So anything else on recruitment?
What about using convicts that have to do community service?
We've done that. That's how they got me.
So any of these other topics, anyone want to take a stab at, or shall we move on?
We were looking for a member of the Latino community to serve on our lab, and I did go to the Hispanic Chamber of Commerce Victor's meeting. I also went to another meeting that was had been set up by the Latino community, and that was how I found a lab member. So we really have to go where the people are that you want.
I had Petalum's lab was trying to think about enlarging our membership to include Latino population and the young parent population. And our city council representative warned us that we had to be really careful in terms of discrimination issues and those kinds of issues. So I don't know my way through that cloudy area, but it is a cloudy area.
I have some great thoughts about that, Tim.
Okay.
Okay, if we feel like we've covered this and there's no other topics, do we want to look at these for a minute and then talk about maybe some actions that you guys can bring back to your groups over the next year to address some of these topics? Running out of space here. So, what do you want to tackle first?
Well, the easy one would be for the labs to tell people how we spent the budget. We tell our commissioners.
Our lab and our branch manager will put together some signage at the entrance to people walking into the library, telling them about the lab, and it'd be multilingual and asking if they like the library, if they'd like to participate in keeping it going. See if we can get some new blood that way.
I heard something about bylaws and inconsistency. Do you want to talk
I
about
was
that?
going to say that. I was going to suggest that a lot of these things could be incorporated by changes in bylaws, and so I think that it's a good action thing would be to go back to the lab and say what bylaws can we change to upgrade the structure and the foundation of the lab, and how do we do that, and what wording is needed. And so that would be one. Bylaws.
Should we review all of the bylaws? Try to get some sort of standardization. Is there anything to be gained or lost?
Since we're all appointed.
Could we just have one county-wide bylaw that maybe was just out of one section that just was specific to a branch, but basically the whole body for everybody was the same?
I don't think one would fit all.
Well, you have to have your meeting date and time. We're all scattered all over the
I think
board.
that would
You don't have to have that in the bylaws, so just
Yeah.
that you meet on a regular basis.
Yep.
So I would propose maybe doing some sort of bylaws council or bylaws workshop
Just to review.
to review. I mean, what I could do, and I'm sorry for interjecting myself into this, but what I could do is put all the bylaws together, send them out to everyone, and maybe that could start a conversation about what's good, what's bad, what's ugly, what we could add, what we could leave alone. And by we, I mean you.
Yes.
Okay. Right. I never forget that. Okay, what else did I hear? Or
We
yeah.
definitely need to go to the meeting, or to a report during the lab. During the lab part of the meeting, of the commissioners' meeting, we do not need to start reporting.
I had an idea on that. You were commenting that maybe not everybody was able to go each meeting, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe we could have the presidents of the labs talk or something, and appoint what it's like. Okay, January it'll be Windsor, February it'll be Kernville, and I don't mean that they would present on behalf of everybody. You know, get your notes to that person so that only one or two people had to attend each meeting.
Each
And speak on behalf
labs.
on all of them.
Which requires all of us to talk.
Communicate, there's an idea.
Just for history, it used to be that in the summer months, the library commission met at different branches.
Yes.
And that always included a meeting with the lab. But once we had it become recorded and et cetera, it became impossible to do that. So that's the history.
But I was just thinking that would, it would limit the number of times. I mean, it conceivably would be the same person every single time, but
Well, there's
it
11
wouldn't have to.
labs, there's 11 labs in
12
12 months.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility of even those reports being done by telephone? Can you call into a lab or to a commission meeting?
Yeah, that was the other thing I was thinking. Each lab could email to the speaker. And then, as you say, the speaker wouldn't even necessarily have to go.
The speaker would be presenting where?
At the commission meeting.
At the commission meeting.
Right.
And we'd be responsible for collecting or for assimilating all the comments from the various labs.
Correct. And specify, I mean, it'd be like,
Kernville
says this, Sebastopol says this.
Yeah.
You know, you wouldn't pretend, so to speak, that it was all from your lab, or each lab would only report once a year.
Or Rebecca as an interim to adopt what we talked about and what Brett said, is to have a chair or president's council at least meet on some kind of a regular basis to talk about the things that were important to all the labs and get more of a sense about what the labs as a group really think is important for you.
But you were saying that might have to be agenda.
What their advice is.
Oh, no, we could agenda it. That's not a barrier at all. But I think that's a good idea. I mean, if that's something that you see of interest, I know people get.
I think it should be, I think it's a really good idea, maybe twice a year. And it should be more informal, I think, though.
Even that's fine.
Well, I don't know. I think it's nice to get around the table and chit chat. There's a good guy.
There are ways to have mixed meetings like that, to have most people live and have someone Skyping in and calling in. There's lots of ways to do it. We're a 27-county agency, and we obviously couldn't meet all in person, so everyone was used to the fact that they could even Skype in and actually have their picture right there, and you can talk back and forth, or if those didn't have that access, just calling in, so there's at least still that meeting. Everyone tries to make it in person as possible, but there's still ways to bring it.
One action that I think would be important would be to go back to the lab meetings and maybe either appoint a committee or a person to be the community engagement officer or someone like that. Because I look at the community engagement